We're going to puck around and find out. We're going to talk the Stars, and depending on how much information he volunteers, the relationship aspect of the returning Joey Erickson to the program. Welcome back, good sir.
I appreciate it. It's an absolute blast to be back with Mike and the fellas. More importantly, Mike. That's what it's all about. Pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, Joey. My guy, Scotty Erickson over there. Black gloves, black shoes. And also, I just want to congratulate Joey because it looks like for the first time ever, he's getting some chin hair.
Yes, appreciate that.
I don't know if you can see that on YouTube or Twitch, but it's pretty awesome.
Thank you. I did shave recently, but it's starting to grow back. You know, the Corpus Christi Ice Rays are in a playoff push, so I don't know if I'm going to touch it very much longer. So, you'll have to be on the lookout for it.
This is a playoff
as
beard?
it comes in.
Yeah, this is a playoff
Have you started growing hair on your cheeks yet, or is that just not happening? Or?
No. I get some in the chin. It's really scraggly. It's absolutely disgusting.
How about your pit, your armpit?
I got decent. I got a decent amount there. My dad.
Don't you dare.
My dad will watch Locked On Stars. Every once in a while. He's a loyal listener, and every once in a while he sends me a text. It's time to shave. That's ugly.
Now, you mentioned Corpus Christi. Tell everybody, if they haven't been following, which they should, why you are actually here right now. Like, you're in studio with us right now.
Correct, yeah. The Corpus Christi Ice Rays this weekend are taking on the Lone Star Brahmas, who are actually currently first place in the South Division in the North American Hockey League. For those that do not know, I am the play-by-play voice of the Ice Rays, so we're up here for a big road trip. We got 3 games this weekend in North Richmond Hills. It's at the NYTEX Sports Center, so Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. I actually really encourage people to go out there because these two teams do not like each other. There's going to be fireworks, and they played last week. The Brahmas unfortunately swept Corpus Christi, so there's going to be a lot of tension this week. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's really good hockey. It's really good hockey, and you got some really talented young players. So looking forward to the series. And just looking forward to the whole week of being back home. So I get lucky that I get to come back here every once in a while.
Very nice.
You brought up not liking each other, and that kind of reminded me of the injury we just had the other night.
Yes.
That's not Mark Stone saying
accident.
That's not Mark Stone saying, "Hey, remember what Jamie Benn did to me in the playoffs?" Is it? And I've been carrying this. I've been, shouldering this for a while, and I just couldn't wait to take it out on you guys.
I hope it wasn't. The difference with that is that the league actually suspended Jamie Benn and held him accountable for his actions. The league said they didn't care about this play on Miro Heiskanen. I have a lot of different opinions on the matter. Do I think he intentionally tried to injure Miro Heiskanen? No. Do I believe he intentionally put himself into that spot and into the lower half of Miro Heiskanen? Yes, I do so. The so-called tripping, as they call it, I think it's really soft. Mark Stone's a really good hockey player. I think he can stay up on his boots a little bit more. And when he slow it down, it looks worse. Everything's going to look worse when you slow it down. But he knows what he was doing. It's sort of where I get to a point where it's so frustrating. It's Miro Heiskanen. Come on. He's so significant and important, and to put yourself in that position where damage could have been done. And fortunately, this just came out about 30 minutes ago.
He's week to week, right?
That's huge. Yeah, week to week until labeled as week to week until all the information is determined. That gets me giddy even hearing that, because I thought there was real worries about him being done for the season, and that would have changed my whole perspective on the Dallas Stars moving forward. Win to win feels like, or week to week feels like a giant win for the Stars right now.
Do you think Mark Stone is better at playing hockey or helping Las Vegas circumvent the salary cap?
95% is circumventing the cap.
Okay.
They're wonderful at it. I think GM Jim Nill should do the same here with.
We have the opportunity.
Yeah. I would love for him to do the same thing. And look, Miro is so significant. You can't overstate how important his loss would be. I mean, look at
the amount of minutes.
Yeah, you can compare it to sort of Luka Doncic in a way. And I know basketball is completely different. He always has the ball in his hands, and he's always a threat to score. But Miro plays 26, 28 minutes a night, and is your best player on the ice at any given time. And let's just compare it to the Mavs. If Doncic was out, we'll knock on wood, for the rest of the season, you would be like, okay, you'd have different perspective on how the Mavs should go about things. Well, maybe at the deadline, we're not as aggressive in certain things like that.
With Miro being week to week, which, I mean, it sucks, but it's probably a best case scenario.
Yes.
For him, That also overwhelmingly likely means he's going to miss the Four Nations face-off. For people who are not familiar, we're doing something a little bit different here. What is the Four Nations face-off?
Yeah, so it's no All-Star game this year.
So we'll say
in the
All-Star
NHL.
break, but I really mean Four Nations break.
Correct. This is an NHLPA thing. It's a Players Association tournament. Unfortunately, it stinks that Russia's not a part of it. I know there's some geopolitical things, but when Russia's involved in hockey, it's a good thing. So you're missing out on the Kucherovs of the world and the Ovechkins. But anyways, it's a Four Nations face-off. So you got Team USA, you got Team Sweden, Team Finland, and of course Team Canada. It's going to be a pretty quick tournament. It feels like. I think there's going to be a lot of urgency behind it, which I think is good. And I'm super stoked for it. It's supposed to be like a precursor to the Olympics. And Otter's going to be in it, of course. Rope Hintz still, and Esa Lindell with Team Finland. So it's been a while since I've watched sort of best on best, as they call it. And some of my favorite hockey memories were growing up. We're watching the Olympics. I remember the golden goal by Crosby, and I remember just sobbing in my game room watching that game. But TJ Oshie in Sochi, the 8 times he went or whatever, and he scored. So they're just great memories, and I think it's gonna be great to set up for the Olympics too here. I think it's in Italy next year. So
one of the keys we've discussed a lot is keeping Otter fresh for the playoff run. How do you think they have managed that so far this year with DeSmith?
Smith just got a shutout.
Yeah, I would say that they're pretty much on track for how they've wanted to handle the tandem. I think Pete DeBoer said at the beginning of the year they want him to be around 55 to 63 games. That feels like the perfect amount. I know in December when DeSmith was dealing with an injury, Otter had played, I think, 8 in a row at one point, so there was some people getting a little irritated with that. DeSmith's been a solid backup. He's had some really nice starts. I mean, the majority of his starts, he's really just held Dallas into a lot of his games, so they've been good.
Would we not then argue then that he's been better than solid?
Correct. Yeah, I guess that would be a more apropos way of describing. I think Otter's having one of his more consistent years in his career this year. Hasn't been as much roller coaster up and down. I think he's top 10 in save percentage, which isn't a bad thing. And yeah, I think he'll be well rested and ready to go for the postseason, where I think he really shines bright in those moments. So,
have you gotten the sense, not from the Stars players themselves whatsoever, but from the fan base at all, that they have been a little cooler on this regular season just because you're like, yeah, no, I know you're really good.
That's how it happens.
Let me know once we get to the playoffs, because we've done this a bunch now.
I would say so. I mean, even from my perspective, I'm talking about in August on Locked On Stars about the postseason, really. Like, what are the Stars going to be when the playoffs roll around? It's kind of, let's just get through the 82-game slog. Let's get through that, and we can just get to the postseason, which is a good feeling, too. There was about a decade where Dallas was always an 8 or 9 seed, and they're always, at this point in the season,
last
they'd be
2 games,
2.5 games back or 2 points, and it's just, you're in one day, you're out the next. It's nice to be comfortable within the top 3. Now it's all about matchups, right? Can Dallas get an easier road than they did last year, where they really had to take on, 3 different Western Conference Finals opponents? But
who do you want to see from that perspective then?
I would love to see. As much as I hate to say it, and I don't think it's the best series statistically for Vegas, for Dallas, it would be Vegas. I would love to see that series again. I remember coming out of that first round last year, I was like, that's the best hockey I've ever watched. Like, just 7 games of just pure hockey. I would love to see that. I'm kind of on the Wild this year. I would love to see Minnesota again. That's always just so tension. There's so much tension between the two. Yes, and we own them. I would love to destroy them. Otter going into their building where he lived and he grew up in, and then boom, he just destroys the Wild.
I know we've already had the playoffs play out last year where Edmonton kicked our butts, right? In the end.
Until the inevitable.
I remember being in Denver, Colorado, where the whole Ranger season kind of started going downhill, but the Stars were going uphill then as they beat the Avalanche that night. I was out there with Eric Nadel watching. Do you think the Stars have a better chance of going to the Stanley Cup this year than they did last year going into the playoffs? I know we know how it played out last year.
That's a great question. I would say so. I really would. I would say so. There feels like there's such a hodgepodge of different teams in the West, and as much criticisms as I've had about the Stars this season. You look on paper, they're third in goals against. They're 10th in goals for. The power play has to get better, especially at home. They're 31st in home power play. Makes no sense, and they've won a ton of games at home, which seems to contradict itself. But I like the Stars' chances against a Minnesota, even a Winnipeg. Edmonton, for that matter, who have really turned it on again. But I think the path for Dallas is open, and the ability for them to get better at the deadline, which you're probably going to see post Four Nations face-off, is when teams are really going to start getting active and looking at the market. And hopefully with Miro, we'll get a better idea of when he's going to come back. Then you can really shore up this roster. I think there's just a lot of exciting things for the second half. And I think one of the positives out of the Miro injury, which is weird to say, but you're going to see Thomas Harley now get a chance to sort of step up, be that number one. Liam Bichel, who I love. I'm curious if you guys have thoughts on him. He's such a man. Yeah, he's so just so huge. I asked my dad what he looked like when he went to a game in person. He's a moose among deer, and I think he really is. He's just ginormous, and I think they'll maybe let the leash off of him a bit. Not that they have been trying to shelter him, because I think they really trust him, but to see him get some more minutes over this next few weeks. And the great thing about it is it maybe came at a great time with the Miro injury that we have this little Four Nations face-off break. He gets a couple more weeks. He doesn't have to play in those games, and he gets more well-rested. And we all know Miro needs to be as rested as possible, because he's going to be playing 30 minutes a night in the postseason. All
right, so I know we got 2 months-ish, month and a half, a little over a month before we get to the trade deadline. But this team, what do they need? I know injuries can play a part of that, but what does this team need to be
somebody who gives a damn and makes an impact on power play?
I would love to add a scoring winger of some type with some size, somebody like a Mason Marchment. One of the things that I think Dallas needs to improve on is just a bit more of their size. It
feels like it's been the thing for a while.
Well, I've been harping on this a lot too. I'm curious your thoughts, but you look at Stankoven, Bork, Blackwell, Steele. All similar archetypes, right? Mm-hmm. They all sort of play the similar style of game. I think they need to add another sort of Marchment type of figure that can score, but is also hard and physical, plays with an edge, right? Gets to that line, doesn't cross it, or maybe he does, sort of like Jamie Benn every once in a while. Like that's good. So I would love to add something like that. And man, if there's an ability to go out and get a top 4 defenseman, if the price is right, that'd be awesome. Dallas native Seth Jones has been thrown out there. He costs a lot of money. It's not going to work probably with the cap unless Chicago wants to retain some of that salary, but I think he would be interested.
Which Jim Nill has gotten teams to do before.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, he's a wizard. I think he could possibly talk him into it. So we'll see how it all shapes out.